If you haven't figured it out already, this is Dr. Kevin Kirk.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Simone, and thanks for being here today. I think there's been only one other introduction that I've ever had in my life that was kinder than that. And that's when I introduced myself. No, no, I appreciate that kindness. It's great to be with you. What up? That's what my stepson always says when he comes home from work every night. So, hey, what up? Anyway, I didn't know what that meant until about 2 weeks ago. But anyway, I wanted to spend a little time. You kind of know a little bit about me from the academic side and some of my professional side. But I want to talk to you for just a few minutes about some of the things that I think helped shape this old man some years ago when I was growing up. And I think that has a lot to do with the topic that we're talking about today on professionalism. Because I think a lot of the things we learn in our youth apply to us as we become adults, right? And I just want to tell you a little bit about my background. When I grew up in a little teeny town back then, it was called Orem, Utah. And it's right next to Provo, Utah, where Greg is from. And back 100 years ago, when I was growing up, it was really a very agrarian town. It was all farming community. So out my back door, all you could see were like fruit trees forever. I mean, literally. And so when I was 9, my first job was to pick fruit. My grandfather was a farmer, and my dad had a garden, and I have a can opener. That's kind of how it worked. But anyway, I knew I didn't want to be a farmer, but that's how I first started working. It was very hard work when I was 9 years old. So in the summertime, I'd start picking cherries, and then we went into apricots, and then we went into pears, and then we went into apples and so forth as the different fruit seasons progressed. And I learned very young that if I was going to get paid for what I did, that I had to perform. Okay, and back then you were paid so much for each lug of cherries that you picked, and so we'd get like 4 cents a pound way back then. And so I think I consumed more cherries than I picked, but that's a good digestive thing if you need that anyway. By the way, but anyway, I learned that hard work. Never did kill anybody, but it scared a lot of people. And so I learned that very young in my youth. My dad always said, if you're going to do a job, do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again. So that's what I started doing. So I did that from the time I was 9 years old. I worked also for a sheep herder that lived across the street from us, and he had a sheep ranch across the lake where we lived. And he had a lot of sheep there. And so I bucked bales of hay in the summertime. I mended fences. I docked sheep. Does anybody know what docking sheep is? Oh, good. The rest of you don't want to know. Okay. Anyway, I did that. And so it was a good learning experience. I learned a lot. And when I turned 16, I guess I got my kind of first real job, okay, when I was in high school. And back then, a lot of the fast food things were just, in the mid-'60s, were just kind of catching on. Like McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Taco Bell, and some of those things were just kind of coming into existence. And so I had a neighbor who ran a KFC, a Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I went to work for her. And back then, minimum wage, if there was a thing, she could pay me basically whatever she wanted to. So I got $1 an hour. That's how much I was paid. I don't know how much it is. I think it's 7-something now, minimum wage, an hour now. But it was $1 an hour. And so I was working there after school, like I'd go to work at 4 o'clock, work till about 10 o'clock. Well, I was working one evening, and I worked in the back and cooking chicken. And I had scars on my arms to prove it. But you had to cook chicken in a pressure cooker, and it had to be 410 degrees when you put the chicken in the grease. And a lot of times that grease would come out and splatter on your arms and so forth, and it would leave nice marks. But as I was working one evening, who should walk through the back door? Colonel Sanders. Wow. Colonel Sanders walked in the back door. Yes, he had a white suit on, a little black tie, the goatee, the whole 9 yards. There was a real Colonel Sanders, in case you were wondering. So he walked in and he said, "Hello, son," and he walked up to the front of by the office where my manager was. And about 2 minutes later, she came running back to me and she said, you have to cook the best chicken you have ever cooked in your life because the Colonel's here. So no pressure, right? So here I am 16 years old and cooking chicken. So I cook this batch of chicken and you dump it out on a tray so it drains and then you take it out front. Well, I did that, and a few minutes later, the Colonel came walking back with the drumstick like this in his hand, you know. And he was walking back, and he was talking to me and everything, and he was really nice, and he said, "I just want you to know, son, that was excellent chicken." And he reached in his wallet, and he pulled out a $20 bill. Now, I'm going to refer you back to what I made. Okay, when I just told you $1 an hour, and so and a given night I would work from 4 to 10, so I'd make $6, and then Uncle Sam would take his share out of that. So typically I would net about $4.50 a night. Now you need to understand, back then, yes, I'm a dinosaur. Back then, gas was 21 cents a gallon.
Ooh. Wow.
Snickers bars were 5 cents, and I could go to the movie for 25 cents. I mean, so that's the way life was back then. Okay, so $20 was a lot of money. That was like 5 nights of work for me. Okay, and I didn't have to pay taxes on it either, so it was really cool. So I was really tickled with that. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is that I learned very young that if you work hard and you do well, you'll be rewarded for it. Okay, and it's more than just the money I was rewarded for. I felt really good about doing something that I was doing. And I really think that that's an important principle to learn, that it really doesn't matter what we do in life. We have choices. It matters how we do it. I think that's the bottom line, right? So I kind of wanted to start with that a little bit with you, and then kind of springboard into professionalism. Let me help this lady right here. There you go. You're welcome. When you think of professionalism, the term professionalism, who or what comes to mind in your mind? Just, okay, very good. The check's in the mail now. Okay. Besides me, that's a great answer, I think, but I'm a little biased. But, you know, really, who else comes to mind? Who or what comes to mind? Yeah.
White-collar CEO.
Okay, a white-collar CEO, and why do you think that? Just for grins.
That's my dad, for example, is an engineer.
Okay.
And so I've always been taught that professional is, you know, someone that wears a suit or works in an office.
Okay, okay. Great answer. Yes, something over here.
Mine isn't a person, it's more of their character. Their character should come out.
Yeah, their character, okay? Now, I agree with you. You know, I've known a lot of characters with character, okay? There's a little bit different there. When you use the term, it can be used in different ways, right? We all know characters. But you know, characters with character is really a great attribute of a true professional, isn't it? Okay, so I think that's a great answer. Anybody else want to take a stab at that? What do you think of when you think of a true professional?
Integrity.
Integrity, good. Other things?
Someone who always puts their best forward every day, regardless of anything.
Puts their best foot forward. That's hard to say real fast. Puts their best foot forward every day, yes.
Has courage to stand up for others.
Has courage to stand up for what's right. I love that, you know, and as you said that, for some reason, I thought of the Lion in the Wizard of Oz, right? What did he need?
Courage.
He needed courage, right? That's what he wanted. He wanted courage. So, you know, he says, if I were king of the forest, right? He wanted courage. And so, that came from anyway. Sorry about that. I had a Coke for lunch, so I guess that. But you know, we all need courage, absolutely, to do the right thing. And sometimes in the workplace, it's not always popular to do the right thing, is it? It's hard to, if you're caught up in a situation where people are gossiping or saying maybe something negative about a person, sometimes it's hard to turn away and not be a part of that. It takes courage to do that, doesn't it? To do the right thing. That's a great comment. Other things you have? Maybe.
Respect.
Pardon?
Respect.
Respect, yes. Aretha Franklin, I'm not going to sing, but you remember the line was enough. But yes, absolutely, the R-E-S-P-E-C-T, right? Respect that we all have to earn. And it's not like something that can be bestowed upon you. You have to earn it, right? And you earn it every day, okay? It's not like a diploma that you can be bestowed upon. Respect has to be earned. Our word in cares, right? A great message that I'm proud to say it's part of our culture here. And anything else that comes to mind as you think about it?
Motivator.
Be a motivator, okay? Anyone that you're thinking about as far as...
Obama.
Okay. Does he motivate you?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. And great leaders should motivate us, right? Great leaders should motivate us to do good things, right? As a people, as a country, whatever. Absolutely. I'm just going to kind of flip this over a little bit with you, this chart, if I can, and show you some things that I put down on this list that I think a lot of which are in sync with what you're saying. Back, so hopefully you can all see it. I know the angle's not the best there. But, you know, when you ask yourself if you're a professional, are you a pro or a professional? You know, these are some things that I thought of that I think are really key. Always be on time. Why is it important to always be on time?
So that you can be dependable.
Yeah, so that you're dependable, right? If you're not, what are you doing to the company? You're cheating the company, right? You agree to do something in a certain time frame, right? You agree to certain hours. And if you don't do that, you're cheating the company. And that's, you know, they're not going to stand for that typically. You don't want to be a grump, okay? I don't know who you like to go to lunch with or be around, but I don't want to be around, you know, remember Pigpen and Peanuts, the guy that walks around with a cloud over his head all the time? I don't want to be like that. I want to be around somebody that's uplifting, that's positive, that's going to motivate me, that's going to bring me up, right?
That's right.
And I think that that's the kind of person we all like to work with because it makes work fun. You know, you're going to spend a lot of days, a lot of weeks, a lot of years in the workplace. Why not make it great? You know? And the value that you bring to the workplace every day is going to add value to where you work. You know, you can't expect somebody else to be something that you're not willing to be yourself, right? We all have to be that person first and foremost. Dressing appropriately, I put down. Okay, I think that's really important. We have to look the part, right? Okay, I'm going to take a minute and pause just there for a minute. I'm going to ask you, if you would, to just close your eyes for a few minutes. No peeking, okay? And I'm going to try to describe for you, all your eyes closed. I see some eyes open, okay? I'm going to try to describe for you something that I want you to do, okay? Keep them closed. Okay? Now, I'm going to have you all be Brenda Knox for a minute. Some of you don't know Brenda Knox. Keep your eyes closed, please. Okay, Brenda Knox is our HR director. And I'm going to have you pretend for just a few minutes that you're Brenda Knox. And you're going to be interviewing, you know, this person that you think really looks good on paper. Okay? Now, he's going to be coming in for this interview. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Okay. And, you know, this person looked really good on paper, right? And so you were excited to see this person because on paper they looked like they had all the credentials and they were doing really good things. And then you met the person. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've ever heard something called Me in 30 Seconds. Anybody ever heard of that? Typically, you have 30 seconds or less to really make or break that deal, okay, in an interview. You may not know that or not, but the first impression, you only get one chance to make a first impression, right?
That's right. That's right.
And this is obviously a little exaggeration. There's a draft in here somewhere. I don't know. But you only have one chance to make a first impression, right? And so you don't want to blow it. You don't want to be walking in there chewing gum. You know, if you have any hair, you want to make sure that it's combed. You want to make sure that you have at least a clean shirt that's tidy, maybe with no stains or, you know, tears or whatever in it. You want to make sure that it's tucked in. And you want to make sure your socks match, right? Okay? So that, you know, when you sit down and you cross your legs, that it looks like you were doing it in light, not in the dark when you woke up, right? So you want to make sure that everything is in order because you only get that one shot, right? You want to make it the best shot. That's what a true professional has to do. You have to look the part, okay? Now, I believe that there's a lot more to being a professional than just looking the part. I mean, that's an important thing, but it's a lot more, okay? What else is there? Well, let's look at this list a bit, and you can add to it. You know, the way we communicate. Man, I can't talk with that in my mouth. Okay. The way we communicate is really important, you know. And you don't want to come in using slang. You don't want to come in using terminology that's not consistent with good verbal communication, you know. You want to learn things that are going to help you. So what do? You do homework on the company, right? You do your homework on the internet, or if you know somebody that's in the workplace, you interview that person before you ever go in, right? That's really important. Some other things you can do on the job is you offer to help each other, right? Isn't that what a good team does? Yeah. Isn't that what a good family does to make things work? You help each other, right? You have to do that. So you offer, you kind of be proactive. That's the first habit of 7 habits of highly effective people that Dr. Covey talks about, is being proactive. Take the initiative, okay? Don't hide from your mistakes. Do anybody know anybody that's perfect?
No.
Well, there was one that I know of that walked the earth, and I think there was only one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So besides that one man, I don't think there was ever another perfect person that's walked the earth, okay? So we all make mistakes. Don't hide from them. Own up. A word. Accountability. Right? A word. Okay? So we communicate well, and we always fight fair. You may think that's funny, but and what I mean by that is not duke it out. But I mean, you know, if you're in a disagreement with somebody, you know, make sure that you do so in a respectful way if you disagree with that person. Fight fairly. And mainly, you do it in the presence of the person. I don't know if you've ever heard of a word that's called duplicitous. Anybody ever heard of that word? What do you think it means? What does dual mean? Two, right. So basically, that's a tip, okay? Duplicitous means basically to be two-faced. You don't want to be two-faced, meaning you wouldn't say one thing to that person when they're present and then say something else about them when they're not present, right?
Right.
You don't want to be duplicitous. That's what it means. A great manager taught me that lesson years ago, because we would always have manager meetings on Fridays, and sometimes the manager would be absent. And so when somebody's absent, it's easy to point fingers and talk negatively about them. And he would always remind us, hey guys, we're not going to be duplicitous. That person's not here to fight fair and to defend their position. We're not going to do that. We're not going to go there. So I appreciated that lesson a long time ago. Never lie. I think it was Mark Twain that said, if you always tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. Exactly. Great advice, right? When you start lying, what do you have to do? Was I really there at that time when I said I was? Or whatever. You have to kind of cover your tracks, right? So then you have to another lie to cover that other lie. If you always tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. And the older I get, I don't remember much, so that's really helpful. You don't want to air your dirty laundry, okay? Everybody has dirty laundry, meaning we all have stories that maybe aren't positive, but sometimes when one chimes in, somebody else has got a better story to tell. And we don't need that in a professional work environment. We don't need that at school, right? We need a great learning environment, so that's what we try to create here. Focus on your work when you're at work, right? Be willing to learn. That's one of our core values that we just added recently. Pursue growth and learning. And I was just visiting with one of our students today. She actually brought it to my attention. She said, have you ever heard of Dr. Covey? I said, yeah, I've heard of him. She said, he wrote a great book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I said, yeah, I've heard of it. And some of you are laughing because I profess Covey a lot. But anyway, the 7th habit that he talks about is to sharpen the saw, sharpen your saw. And it's the same thing. You always have to sharpen your skills. Even when you're graduated and you're a great medical assistant or dental assistant or pharmacy tech or fitness and health trainer, whatever you are going to be when you grow up, you still have to sharpen your skills. It doesn't end there when you get the diploma, right? And if you don't, what's going to happen?
You get replaced.
Yeah, you'll get replaced real fast.
Oh, yeah.
So we all have to continue to learn. We love continuing education. That's a part of growth and learning. You need to earn your salary and respect. We've already talked about respect a little bit, I think, but you need to earn your salary every day. Don't cheat the company. Be a team player and love what you do. You know, you've got to love what you do. You've got to have a passion for what you do. And some of you have heard me talk about this probably, but if you don't, you're going to shortchange yourself, first of all, right? If you don't love what you do. And secondly, you're going to shortchange your clients, your patients, your customers that you're going to serve, aren't you? If your heart's not in something and you don't give it 100%, some people say give it 110%. I don't know how to do that. I only know how to give it 100%, right? But if you give it 100%, then you're going to go home and you're going to be exhausted that day. And that's a good thing, because you know you gave it everything you've got to be the best employer you can be, the best person you can be, whatever it is you're doing in serving other people. And I think the highest compliment in being a true professional is serving others. I really believe that that's the highest compliment, right? Give you an example. A couple of years ago, I hope you're looking past this and hearing what I'm saying. Anyway, a couple of years ago, my mother was battling cancer, and my folks and my brother at the time had moved to Boise, Idaho, where they'd lived since the mid-'70s. And so I tried to get out and visit my mother as frequently as I could, which wasn't very often. But on a return trip from Boise, I'd already boarded the plane, and I was sitting kind of in the back part of the plane. And I happened to notice an elderly lady who was being seated on the plane, and there was a flight attendant who was helping her get seated, okay? And the thing that really impressed me was everything she did for that lady. She got her comfortably seated. She made sure she was buckled in, and then she went and got her a drink. And then she went and got her a pillow. And then she got her a blanket. And throughout the course of that entire flight from Boise to Denver, she was very attentive to that lady, okay? Now, I don't know what's in the job description of a flight attendant. Maybe all that stuff, probably. But the thing that impressed me was not the things that she was doing as much as how she was doing it. She was doing it out of love and care for that lady. That was genuine, okay? And that was unmistakable. And that was a great lesson to me. And so I had a little bit of a layover in Denver, so I made it a point to be the last person off the plane. And I spoke to that flight attendant, and I complimented her on how she cared for that lady. Now, no doubt, I was more sensitive to that elderly lady's condition because of my mother's condition, probably, right? No doubt. But that made her day, and she told me that. She said, "You just made my day." She said, "I was just trying to do my job the best way I could do it, helping that lady, because I could tell she needed help." And I said, "Well, you definitely did that." And so that really impressed me. Again, it doesn't matter what we do, it matters how we do it, in everything we do. I think that's so important. You know, I know there's probably all kinds of examples of a lack of professionalism that you've seen in the workplace where you've worked. We've all seen them, right? We all know what we don't want to do or what we don't want to be a part of. So I think those are great learning opportunities for us to make sure we don't go down that path, you know. And one of the things that I love about our school is basically our reputation. And we've worked really hard. Like it was mentioned, I've been with the school. I'll be with the school 11 years, February the 4th. So I'll be 11 years. And I've seen it grow tremendously in those 11 years. And over those years, we've built a great reputation. And so our Career Services Department, Linda DeWitt has told me, our director of that department has said that we have agencies and businesses that will call their department and ask specifically for our students. They don't want other students from other schools. They want our students. And I attribute that to the culture. I attribute it to great instructors who are professional, who love and care about you. And I hope you all know that. And even in CLD, if you're just starting a school, I hope you feel that love and that passion that our faculty have for you. Because it's more than a paycheck for them too. I know that. It's because they love what they do. And they want to help you love what you do and are going to be doing. I think that's so important. You know, I'll tell you a little story about some of the downside of things that can happen. It's in the form of a story about three ministers. There were these three ministers that lived in this one community. And they all had their different congregations, their own parishes. And besides their love of the Lord, they had another love, and that was the love that they loved to fish. And so on any nice summer day, they would be out on one of their boats fishing. And one day they were out fishing, and out of the blue, one of these ministers, just kind of out of the blue, said, "You know, guys, I have something I need to get off my chest." He said, "You know, I've got this problem." And he said, "Every Friday night, I go to a neighboring town where nobody knows me, and I get drunk." Moment of silence. Nobody knew what to say. Okay, the other two ministers didn't have a clue what to say, so just kind of awkward silence for a few minutes. All of a sudden, the second minister pipes up, and he said, "Well, you know, we've been trying to raise money for our mission fund. We're trying to send missionaries over to India, and I've only been able to raise about half the funds that I need to send these missionaries over there. So I took a chance. I went to the casino with the money. Guess what? Lost it all. And I don't know how to tell my congregation.
Oh.
Another moment of silence, dead silence. Okay? They're all just sitting there. Finally, the third minister pipes up and he said, you know, guys, I probably should have gone first because I like to gossip. You know. Anyway, you know, some of the downside of things, you know, just a little humor there, probably very little. But, you know, gossip can be a cancer, and I've seen it be a cancer in the workplace.
Yeah.
Where people talk about other people, and it just brings down the morale, the culture, all the good things that we're trying to be in an organization. So please remove yourself from that kind of stuff if you ever try to get caught up in it or want people to get you caught up in it. It's just very detrimental, right? I think it's very damaging. How are we doing on time?
We're doing good. I need a video that you want to show.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder, Simone. I was looking, as I knew I was going to be sharing some thoughts with you today. Found a little video, thanks to Pooja's help and Annette. They actually found the same video. And I thought, well, must be right then. It's actually from Brigham Young University Hawaii campus. They have a campus in Hawaii. I never got to go to that one, unfortunately. But they have a lot of students from all over the South Pacific and Asia, Hawaiian Islands and so forth, and the main island here, the United States, where the 48, where they go over there and go to school. And the thing I liked about this little video clip was they interviewed a bunch of different students like yourself, and they asked them what it meant to be a professional. And this is what they came up with. Absolutely not. No. Hopefully it'll come up in just a second. But it was pretty. I thought it was pretty cool. So I wanted you to see it if we have time. It's just kind of a short little video here.
Well, while we wait for the
Yeah.
video, we're getting some questions in
Okay.
already
Good.
from the Poll EV app, and I'll throw up the web address so you guys can answer ask questions to Dr. Kirk.
Okay.
But the first question that we have for you is, how do you handle a situation professionally if you disagree with someone in your workplace? Someone makes you upset, you have some kind of feud happening. How do you deal with that in a professional manner?
Yeah, and that's a toughie. Good question. I think the main thing when you're dealing with a problem like that, it goes back to courtesy and respect too. You have to show that in the situation. You know, sometimes you may want to just chew somebody out or just say, "What's wrong with you?" or shake them. You know, you can't do that. Okay, you cannot physically lay a hand on somebody and do that. You have to be very diplomatic about it, but you also have to convey the message that that's unacceptable. You know, if somebody's doing something that's contrary to a policy, or if they're bad-mouthing somebody else in the workplace, whatever the case may be, you have to be courteous, respectful, but still convey the message that we're not going to tolerate that. And depending on the severity of the thing, it can be maybe a verbal warning, or maybe it could be a written warning or something. We have that in place where we have corrective action. We don't like to do it, believe me. It's not fun for any of us to do those kinds of things. But to protect what we've worked so hard to get, we will do that if we have to. And you probably all heard the term bad apples. Sometimes if there's a bad apple, you have to weed those out, or what happens to the rest of the bushel? It goes bad, right. And so we can't allow that to happen. I think we work really hard to give every person many, many chances to correct behavior and to do things better, but sometimes it's not always possible, on a rare occasion. Yeah.
All right, well, we're ready for your
Okay.
video.
Okay,
So,
let's
video?
view this,
Mhm.
and hopefully there's a few takeaways there for you, and I'll step out of the way. Great, thank you. Kind of where I know we got maybe a few more questions. Okay, do you want to take that? Okay. I was just going to maybe share a little story with you too, and then we'll take more questions. But I read this story some time ago, and I think it's got great application to professionalism. There was a man who was in the construction industry for many years, like 45 years, and he worked for this other fellow that had the ownership of the company. And so he was getting close to retirement, and this gentleman really looked forward to retirement because he loved to fish and kind of tinker around and do other things. And so before he retired, his boss said, hey, I just have one more project for you to do. And he wanted him to really do it. And the guy that wanted to retire said, no, I'm really not interested. I'm ready to retire. I'd really like to move on and do other things. Well, the owner kept twisting his arm a little bit. So he got him to do this one last project. And the project was to build this home on a big lot, a beautiful home of stone and brick and so forth. And so through the course of this building of this home, his heart, the guy that was retiring, his heart really wasn't in the work. So he started, which he'd never done before. He cut corners, he cut costs, he did things to just get done in a quick hurry with the project. And they finally got the house inspected and everything, and they had a big celebration unbeknownst to the builder. And the last day on the job, the owners of the company came up to this builder and said, we would like to present you the keys to this home that you just built. So guess where this guy's heart went?
Down.
It just sunk, okay? Immediately he thought of how he cut corners and what he did just to get the job done in a hurry, right? All his career, he was a true professional. At the end, he gave up on it because he just wanted to do something quicker and not to give it the whole heart that he had. So, he suffered the consequence. Even though he got this beautiful home, it wasn't the home it could have been, and the owners wanted it to be for this man. So I think that's a great lesson for all of us, that, regardless of our age, regardless of how long we're in a profession, if we ever, shortchange those we serve or cut corners, it could come back to bite us later, and that's something that we don't want to happen. So, Simone, do you have some more questions?
I do.
Great.
What we typically do for shift meetings is we pull up. Oops. Oh, I don't know if it's going to go. We've been having some technical difficulties today. All right. You can submit your questions anonymously to pollev.com/shift-and-propel. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and pull out your iPads or your cell phones and go ahead and hop on this website and submit your questions, and we'll kind of filter them through. And while you all are doing that, we have one question for you.
Okay.
And the question is, when you don't feel motivated, when you're just like, I don't want to put all my hard work into this, building this house, or make it the best I can make it. What do you do to get motivated when you just really don't feel motivated? And that'll be our first question to start out.
Okay.
And then once you guys submit, I'll pull them up on here and ask them to Dr. Kirk.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks. In probably a lot of ways, I'm really fortunate because I absolutely love what I do, so I'm really motivated every day. It's not hard for me to get up and be here. It never has been in the 11 years that I've been here. It just hasn't. If there's something that I dread, I'd maybe take it another step, maybe not compare it to work, but maybe something else. If I had to do a project maybe that I wasn't real motivated about, I believe in the power of prayer. And so I will ask for help to get through that trial that I maybe have to deal with. I believe that there's higher powers that can assist us doing things in our life that help us to get through challenges in our life, like I know many of you do. I talk about the fact that one of our core values here is honor God, and we try to do that. So I know the power of prayer works, and no doubt all of you do as well. And you've experienced that in your life, I hope. And if you haven't, I hope you'll try it and apply that principle, because it will help you do things that you're not capable of doing yourself, I promise you. So I really believe that.
Okay. You have time. I wasn't looking at the clock.
Okay, I'm fine.
We have time for one more question. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor. Does anyone have a question for Dr. Kirk? Oh, first hand. She has the first hand. You're the winner. Go ahead.
My wife dresses me. Oh, that's not the question. Okay.
My question is, I like your answer about resolving conflict, that you did it from the head perspective. Can you talk more on an equal perspective on how do you keep interacting with somebody that flat out disagrees with you, and and how do you keep a level at this level?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that back, okay? Because you're right.
Yeah, it's different.
I think a lot of times in resolving problems, if you can develop a common ground with that person, so that, if you know that person has common interests or interests that you have, and it may be as simple as children or a love of doing something that you enjoy doing, maybe working out or going for walks or taking care of pets or whatever the case may be, just developing a common ground so that you can use that as a springboard for resolution, because unless you have a common ground with somebody, it's really hard to really resolve some things sometimes. So I really try to develop a common ground, and that a lot of that just comes over time when you work with somebody. You know where their interests are. I mean, I could tell you a lot about Neil here that you wouldn't even know. No, I won't do that. But we share common ground, and we both love the game of golf, and we've played several times. And so, if things are going tough or whatever, we can talk about golf all the time. We can talk about our green meetings that we love to go to on the green, right? Anyway, no, I mean, just the common ground of things, I think, helps resolve a lot of problems. And then it's that caring message that you send. A lot of it's in the delivery. Besides the message, it's in how you deliver the message too. If you do it out of compassion and concern for that other person, and getting it fixed sincerely. Yeah. Good question.
Okay, we have one last question for you. I forgot about it, but we ask it to all of our shift speakers.
Okay.
So shift means, what shift's mission is to do is to shift your mindset and propel your career by that shift in mindset. So is there anything that you would like to leave with this group that will allow them to shift their mindsets and propel into their careers? What's some lasting advice that you have?
Okay. First thing that comes to mind is be true to yourself. You may have had parents that wanted you to be a lawyer, like my parents did initially. Actually, it's hard for me to believe that I would ever be that, but I went through a series of tests when I was young. The test indicated that I would make a good attorney. That's something that I really didn't ever want to do. I never had a goal to be an attorney. And so I shifted from that path to do something that I wanted to do. And at one point it was to be a teacher, so I taught, go into education. I spent a lot of time in my church as a lay minister for my church, so I did that for many years, and I still do as I have the opportunity to. I think you just have to follow your heart, because you're the person that lives your own life. You don't live the life that your parents want you to live. You live your own life, right? And if you're not, you're going to always wonder, what would it have been like if I went down that path just for my folks, became an attorney? Probably would have been a comfortable life, would have been able to do things, but it wasn't me. And so that's why you're all here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're here because you want to do something for yourself.
That's right.
And I think that's the key. And I applaud you. I went back to school in my 30s and 40s, got another degree and so forth, and I've never regretted it. I have never regretted it. And that's what education does. It just opens up horizons for you, and gives you opportunities to do different things in your life. So I applaud you. Just be true to yourself. I think that's the key. Right? Thanks so much.